Okay, let's jump straight into it. We are cracking open a modern classic today, one that really shifted how millions view history. Yuval Noah Harari's *Sapiens*, A Brief History of Humankind.
It's definitely a big one. Hard to avoid if you're interested in, well, the big picture of us.
Absolutely. Our source material here is vast. It condenses something like 100,000 years of human history into this really ambitious narrative.
And it pulls from everywhere. Biology, anthropology, economics.
Yeah.
It's not just dates and kings.
Right. So our mission for this dive is to cut right to the core for you, the listener. We want to figure out Harari's answer to the central question. How did Homo sapiens, just one species among many, pull off this planetary takeover?
Yeah, how did we end up running the show?
Exactly. How did one, frankly, unremarkable primate come to dominate Earth?
It is a huge question. And what's really interesting, I think, is how Harari structures it all. He doesn't just go year by year.
No, it's built around these massive shifts, right? Revolution.
Yeah, exactly. 4 major transformative revolutions. And like you said, it weaves together all these different fields, history, biology, economics, even philosophy, to give you this comprehensive view.
Okay, let's unpack that right away. The first revolution he talks about is maybe the most unique concept in the whole book.
Yeah.
The cognitive revolution. This is happening around, 70,000 years ago?
That's the time frame, yeah.
So early humans,
Yeah.
we weren't the strongest or fastest, maybe not even the smartest compared to, say, Neanderthals in some ways. So what was it? What gave sapiens that winning edge?
Well, the key argument isn't about muscles or tools initially. It was the development of complex language and, really crucially, imagination.
Imagination.
Yes. The ability to talk about and believe in things that don't actually exist in the physical world. Think shared myths, fictions, abstract concepts.
So it's not just about saying, look, a lion. It's about saying the lion spirit protects our tribe. That kind of leap.
Precisely. That leap is the superpower. It allowed us to create and collectively believe in things like gods, nations, money, laws, things you can't touch or see, but that shape our behavior profoundly.
So the secret sauce isn't better spears, it's better stories, collective fictions.
You could put it that way. And this, Harari argues, is the absolute pivot point. This ability to create and stick to these shared fictions, it let us overcome a huge biological barrier.
Which barrier is that?
The limit on cooperation size. Most animals, like chimps, can only cooperate in small groups where everyone knows each other intimately. You know, who's trustworthy, who owes who a favor.
Right, there's a limit to how many individuals you can keep track of personally.
Exactly. Maybe around 150 individuals, that kind of personal knowledge breaks down. But our shared fictions, they let strangers cooperate.
How so?
Well, if you and I both believe in the same God or the same nation or that this piece of paper money has value, we can trust each other and work together instantly, even if we've never met.
I see. So the shared belief creates a kind of standardized trust protocol.
Perfectly put. And Harari has that great line. Large numbers of strangers can cooperate successfully by believing in common myths. That's the mechanism.
And that belief translates into coordinated action, building cities, fighting wars, trading goods.
All enabled by agreeing on the fiction. The fiction creates the structure, and the structure lets us reshape the world. Without it, we'd probably still be in small foraging bands.
Okay, that sets the stage. This new cognitive ability allows for scale. But then comes the next big shift, the one we usually celebrate, the agricultural revolution, around 12,000 years ago.
Ah, yes, the shift to farming.
The standard story is farming means food surplus, stability, cities, civilization, progress.
Right, that's the usual narrative. But Harari throws a major curveball here. He calls it history's biggest fraud.
Whoa, okay, fraud, how it led to empires, writing, all that stuff.
It did, for the species collectively. More Homo sapiens could survive in one place. But Harari argues that for the average individual farmer, life actually got worse.
Worse?
Well, think about it. Farmers worked much harder, doing repetitive physical labor day in, day out. Their diets became way less varied, suddenly relying heavily on 1 or 2 staple crops like wheat or rice.
Compared to hunter-gatherers who ate all sorts of things and moved around.
Exactly. Hunter-gatherers arguably worked fewer hours, had a more balanced diet, and faced less risk of mass starvation if one crop failed. Farming brought stability, maybe, but at the cost of health, variety, and probably more sheer drudgery. He calls it the luxury trap.
The luxury trap, meaning the promise of an easier life, actually led to a harder one.
Sort of. You get locked in. Once you start farming grain, you can feed more mouths per acre. Population booms.
And then you can't go back.
Right. You can't support that larger population by hunting and gathering anymore. You're dependent on the farm, dependent on the harvest. And living close together means diseases spread like wildfire, something hunter-gatherers didn't face as much.
So the trap snaps shut. More food overall, but maybe less quality of life for the average person, and you're stuck.
That's the argument. And that's surplus food. It wasn't evenly distributed.
Right. If you have surplus grain, someone has to manage it, guard it.
Precisely. And not everyone needs to farm anymore. So you get the emergence of specialists. Kings, priests, soldiers, administrators, people who don't produce food but control it.
And that's the birth of social hierarchy. Inequality, essentially baked into the system by the surplus itself.
Yeah, the surplus feeds the non-producers, the elites. It's the engine of social class, right there in the grain stores.
That completely reframes the glorious dawn of agriculture. Okay, so we have fictions enabling scale and agriculture creating surplus and hierarchy. This leads us towards bigger, more complex societies, which brings us to the third phase, the unification of humankind.
Right. Over the last few thousand years, we've got these scattered societies. How do they start coming together into larger, more interconnected systems?
What were the big unifiers, according to Harari?
He points to three main systems of shared order that really started to dissolve local boundaries and connect vast numbers of people. First, empires.
Political unification, often through conquest.
Yes, often brutal. But empires spread common laws, languages, currencies, and infrastructure over huge areas, forcing different cultures into a single political framework.
Okay, so empires are one. What's the second?
Religion. Specifically, universal religions like Christianity, Islam, Buddhism. These offered a shared moral code, a shared understanding of the cosmos that could unite people across different ethnicities and political borders.
A shared belief system.
Yeah.
Tying strangers together under one metaphysical umbrella.
Exactly. And the third unifier, which Harari argues is perhaps the most effective.
Let me guess. Money.
Bingo. Money. He sees it as the ultimate system of universal trust, maybe the most successful fiction ever created.
Why more successful than empires or religion?
Because it requires the least actual belief. You don't need to worship the same god or swear allegiance to the same emperor to accept a gold coin. You just need to trust that other people will accept it.
It's based on mutual self-interest, not shared ideology.
Precisely. It creates this global language of value that allows trade and cooperation between vastly different cultures who might agree on literally nothing else.
So empires, religion, money. These forces weave humanity together, creating the conditions for the modern world, really, which leads to the fourth big one, the scientific revolution.
Kicking off around 500 years ago and still going strong. This one is about a fundamental shift in how we approach knowledge itself.
How did that approach change? We always had thinkers and discoveries, didn't we?
We did, but knowledge was largely based on tradition, sacred texts, past authority. The revolutionary idea of the scientific revolution was the embrace of ignorance.
Ignorance, that sounds odd.
It's the willingness to say we don't know. Instead of assuming all the important answers were already known, the new driving force was admitting ignorance and believing we could find answers through observation, experimentation, and mathematics. It's about doubt, not dogma.
So questioning everything, testing everything. That makes sense. But how does Harari connect this directly to, say, capitalism and empire building? It feels like science should be separate.
But it wasn't, historically. This new scientific approach, this exploration and experimentation, it costs money. A lot of money.
Right. Expeditions, labs, equipment.
Exactly. And who funded it? Governments and merchants. They funded it based on the promise of future returns. This ties into the concept of credit.
Belief in the future.
Yes, the core idea of capitalism investing resources now with the expectation that the future will be more prosperous, yielding profits. Scientists and explorers had to convince funders that their research or voyages would lead to new technologies, new resources, new power, basically future profit.
I see the loop now. Capitalism fuels scientific discovery by providing credit based on future potential.
Science then produces new technologies, better navigation, weapons, medicine, industries.
Which then allows for greater economic expansion, resource extraction, empire building.
Which in turn generates more profit, reinforcing the belief in progress and encouraging further investment back into science. It's a powerful, self-accelerating feedback loop.
And that explains why certain nations surged ahead. They embrace this synergy between science, capitalism, and empire.
That's a key part of the argument. It suggests why European powers, who perhaps more readily adopted this model, were able to rapidly expand their influence globally. The quest for knowledge became intertwined with the quest for profit and power.
And Harari is clear. This brought huge benefits, longer lives, technological marvels, the very conversation we're having now.
Undeniable progress in many ways.
But also immense downsides. Environmental destruction on an unprecedented scale, climate change, vast inequalities. The cost of this progress has been enormous, potentially catastrophic.
Absolutely. The book doesn't paint it as a simple success story.
Right.
There's a deep critique of where this trajectory has led us, and that leads right into the conclusion looking towards the future.
Right. He argues we're now at another inflection point. We're starting to move beyond the limitations of biology itself.
Yeah, with genetic engineering, artificial intelligence, biotechnology, the focus is shifting from just making Homo sapiens healthier or happier to fundamentally redesigning life.
He talks about the potential emergence of Homo Deus, godlike humans.
That's the term. The idea is that Homo sapiens, as we've known ourselves for millennia, might actually become obsolete. We might be replaced or transform ourselves into beings who can engineer their own bodies, minds, maybe even consciousness. We're moving from evolution by natural selection to evolution by intelligent design.
But we're the designers now.
Exactly, which raises profound ethical questions. If we can rewrite life itself, what should our goals be? What do we want to become?
It circles back to the core theme, doesn't it? If our history was shaped by shared beliefs and fictions, and now we have the power to reshape our very biology, what new beliefs, what new goals should guide us?
That's the precipice Harari leaves us on. Are we ready for that responsibility, given, our track record?
It's a heavy question. And look, we should also acknowledge for you, the listener, that Sapiens isn't without its critics. It's been massively influential, no doubt.
But it's also faced criticism from some specialists, for oversimplification, inevitably, when you cover 100,000 years.
Right. Some historians might argue specific details about, say, pre-agricultural life are generalized, or maybe that the focus sometimes feels a bit too centered on a Western trajectory of development.
Those are fair points. It's important to remember the scale he's working on. Some nuance is bound to be lost.
Absolutely. Which is why the overall takeaway, I think, is that Sapiens isn't trying to be the definitive granular history textbook. It's more like a grand philosophical narrative.
Exactly. A framework for thinking about the big sweeps of human history, connecting biology, culture, and technology in a really provocative way. It's designed to make you think, maybe question assumptions.
So for you, the listener, the key insight from this deep dive is really this. History, as Harari presents it, is driven less by inevitable forces and more by the stories we tell ourselves, the shared beliefs, the fictions that allow us to cooperate at incredible scale.
For better and sometimes for worse. That cooperation gave us dominance, but also led us into traps and crises.
Which brings us to our final thought for you to ponder. Harari highlighted the power of shared myths like money and nations, and how sometimes pursuing perceived progress led us into a luxury trap, like agriculture.
So the question to leave you with is this. Thinking about our world today, what current system of global trust, what shared belief or technology, maybe our reliance on digital networks or AI decision-making or the constant pursuit of economic growth, what contemporary thing do you depend on that future generations, perhaps future Homo Deus, might look back on as another profound luxury trap?